Welcome everybody. Thanks for coming out to Pangea. We have a special guest to share with you tonight. As you know, as part of our family, we teach health classes all the time. But when we meet someone really special who has some maybe insider information, we just say, hey, let's do something together. So I'm going to introduce to you Kelsey Spanbauer. She's a midwife, and I would describe her, and I tell her this all the time, that if there was a reality TV show of your life is a midwife, it would be an instant hit, and you would know this woman because she'd be world famous. So she's seen amazing things. She's full of the Holy Spirit, and she is really someone that my family leans on for health advice. I even go to Kelsey before I go to doctors, and I am one. And it's, Kelsey, what do you think about this? Right? And she breaks it down and nerds out on it and calls me and like, well, here's what I'm thinking. So the information packed inside of this woman's brain is mind-blowing. She recently launched, she'll probably tell you, a whole new chapter in life called Engedi Wellness, where she's teaching detox protocols for families and offering something really amazing for young children. And if anyone's been a part of the Pangea family long enough, you'll remember, I think a couple of you, when I was running detox protocols in my office. And it is really complicated. And Kelsey finds a way to make it really simple and has a heart of gold for children. And I just couldn't be more thrilled to get to call you a colleague and share your expertise with the Pangea family. So, Kelsey Spanbauer, everybody.
It's not fair to make me cry before you pull me up here. Pangea has been such a well of healing for my family, and I wouldn't be here without them. So it means a lot to me to get to be here tonight and to be invited into the Torchio family. So I have so much gratitude to be here, and I'm very excited to get to share. I'm going to be really honest with you guys. I've taught similar classes to what I planned to teach tonight several times. And last night around 12:30 in the morning, I woke up from a dead sleep, and in my heart, I was like, I have to go downstairs, and I got a download for something completely different. So you're going to get a new version that I haven't spoken before, and anytime this has happened to me in my life, where God's changed my plan in the middle of the night, it's because there's a person that needs to hear something that he shifted in my plan. So I might change the script, but we're here. We're going to have a good time. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about me. Andrew shared, I'm a midwife. I'm a master herbalist. I love plants. I love herbs. I love families. And I'm a cellular healing and detox coach. I really want to kind of make that distinction with the cellular healing and detox. I got here because over the years, there have been so many things that have worked for families with autoimmune, with sickness that aren't working anymore. People would come to me with problems and we would fix them easily with diet, hormones, whatever the things were going on, and it doesn't work anymore. And I believe part of the reason why is the toxic burden that we face. So I am here because I'm committed to empowering parents and aspiring parents to be well, to teach their children to be well, and to be more independent from a system that doesn't have the solutions that they need. I want to see families overcome the challenges, the unprecedented challenges our children are facing today. And without a solution, our kids are in trouble. And so it's our responsibility to find the solution and to teach it to them. I'm going to share a story about a family's health with you guys tonight to demonstrate why some of the principles I'm going to teach you are indisputably important and valuable, and how we can all integrate them into our lives for health. We are in America and in the world, but I'm talking about America because it's where we are, facing an unprecedented health crisis, worse than what we've seen before. And if you don't believe me, I'm going to share some statistics right now. I'm going to prove it. 98% of people, of adults, have a chronic disease. 98%. That basically means every single one of you except me, if we're talking statistics. That's incredible. That's not okay. 1 in 2 children have a chronic disease under the age of 16. 1 in 2. Chronic disease. 1 in 4 children have multiple chronic diseases. Asthma, anxiety, ADHD, depression, goes on and on. 1 in 2 children by 2030 will have full-blown autism. I don't know about the people in this room, but I am not okay with that. The autism rates are more than doubling every 7 years. If we don't intervene, we are going to face a world of children who are lost to connection and to the experience of being loved, which is the most important need that we have as human beings. We can't let it happen. It's a very, very real epidemic and problem that we're facing, and I'm here because my heart is breaking for it, and we can stop it, but it has to start with us. The conventional medical system does not have a solution for Alzheimer's. They don't have a solution for dementia. They don't have a solution for the new epidemic we're facing with spike proteins, for ADHD, for autism. There's not solutions for almost any of the chronic diseases out there. There's symptom management, and they will not provide a solution. And also, as we get going, I'm going to share information why. But first, it's time for your pop quiz. So, who remembers popcorn style from high school? Anybody know what popcorn is? Okay, it just means there's no rules. You get a shout out, whatever you want. So, I want to hear things that you know. How do we detox? What is detox? What do you know? What can you do? What tools? Okay.
Fasting. Folic acid minerals. Sweaty. Eating healthy, like real food. Binders.
What else?
Water.
Anything else?
Liver.
That's a big one. 3 words. What about apple cider vinegar? Anybody heard of that one?
Play.
What else?
Castor oil.
Okay. Anything else anyone wants to add to our list? No? Okay. So I'm going to cross off everything that is not real detox, okay?
Okay.
All right. Let's go. What we know about detox, even in the integrative health space, is wrong. The only way and the only place that I've never used one of these before. Is that it? Will it say? Okay. That real detox happens is inside our cells. Our cells are the only part of our body and the only mechanism that we have that actually detoxes our bodies. If our cells don't work, detox does not happen. Some of the things on this list can be used in detox, but alone, it doesn't do anything. If we don't address the root cause of cellular disease inside the cell, there's no solution for chronic disease. It all starts in the cell. I mentioned before 98% of people have a chronic disease. 97% of those are caused by cellular disease. So detox is really important, and I'm going to show you why. But without addressing the cell, none of the other stuff matters. I don't care how much chelators you take, IV chelation, how much binders you take. You could drink a tub full of zeolites. If you don't get here, none of it's going to work. Only our cells can do it. Everything hinges on the cells. Okay, now I'm going to share with you guys a story about a family that has all completely different health issues, and I'm going to show you why this is true, okay? So there's a young family, pregnant mama with a young toddler. This woman is a firstborn. Any firstborns in the room? Yeah? Okay, so you can thank your mom, your mother's mother, your mother's mother's mother, and your mother's 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 mother for your toxic load. Okay, for part of it. There's lots of other people to blame and things to blame, but lead and mercury passed down 4 generations. So this woman lived a low tox life. She ate very healthy. Her mom had silver fillings. Her grandma had silver fillings, and there's lead toxicity in the family. Okay. So part of this woman's story is being the firstborn and having the load that she has. During her second pregnancy, she was living in a home with a very abusive partner. And she became really sick immediately when becoming pregnant. Vomiting sometimes 40, 50 times a day. Couldn't walk to the bathroom often. Had to have family living with her to take care of her. Had to quit the job that she loved for a time being because she couldn't walk. Took medications to try and stop the vomiting. Had terrible reactions where she was paralyzed for a minute from the waist down. Terrible pain in her legs. And what happened to her, I'm going to give you another word here, started with these tiny little powerhouses that live in our cells that power our bodies called mitochondria. All of the stressors that accumulated in her life, the emotional stressors, the chemical stressors, and the physical stressors of her pregnancy completely tanked her mitochondria, and the energy came down. Her body couldn't function, and her organs started to not work very well. And slowly, with lots of hard work, she began to recover. Just enough in the pregnancy that she was able to go back to work part-time, feed herself, occasionally keep something down. And she gave birth to a seemingly healthy baby. And a couple of months later, left the abusive relationship and moved into a safe place. When her baby turned 3 months old, he started having seizures. Seizures that could not be explained through EEGs, through neurologists, neurologists from the pediatric hospital. Was told that it was normal. Not normal. And thus began her investigation into helping her son. So I'm going to give you a few clues about this kiddo's recovery. This baby's first breakthrough in the chance to heal was his mother moving to a safe environment. Okay, we just removed. Let's, oh gosh, I wanted to do stickers. Okay, we're gonna call all of those 3 stressors: chemical, emotional, and physical. Is everybody tracking with this? Okay, so let's just say we kind of fixed this one. The second breakthrough that this kiddo had was chiropractic care. The chiropractors at Pangea figured out an adjustment that reduced this child's seizure activity immensely. And it took some of the physical pressure off of his cells. The next breakthrough, when this child was about 3 years old, was detox. It cleared up some of the chemical stressors this child was facing. So the original meeting, there are actually like documented measurements of this child's brain function with the neurologist was really concerning about what was going on with the seizure, sometimes like paralysis on one side of this kiddo's body. And at 3, brain, like, I don't know how neurologists measure brain stuff, but whatever their measurements are, looked normal, no concerns. This child went from not talking, not speaking, to speaking really well. Kind of looking like, have you ever looked at a kiddo or a person that just kind of seems like they're not really right there behind their eyes? They're kind of like, there's like a little bit of a fog, to being very present, very fiery, very, very clever. And the key was limiting these stressors, okay? So here is why. I'm gonna just like keep using this paper, is that cool? A normal cell has to have a few things working well. One of the most important parts is the membrane. It lets everything good that we need in the cells and bad out. Another I already told you about, energy. Cells have to make energy. If your cells don't make energy, then you're not going anywhere. One of the very first symptoms of any and every chronic disease is low energy, feeling fatigued. They also have to be able to detox. And when you start healing these different parts of the cells, you actually change the DNA. I'm going to teach you more about how that happens later, but you can actually change the genetic expression. I'm going to just check my notes here. So when a cell becomes sick, we'll go back to this, kiddo or mom. Who are we going to pick on? Anyone? Should we pick on the kid or pick on the mom? Okay, we're going to pick on the kid. Okay, so physical stressor seizures. We get all this inflammation in the membrane of the cell and in the membrane of the mitochondria. Emotional stressors, more inflammation in the nucleus of the cell. Chemical stressors, because guess who this kiddo got their toxic load from? Mom. Okay, so all this inflammation comes with all these different stressors. Emotional stress, trauma, does not injure our cells less than mold, than mercury, than aluminum, than any sort of toxin you can think of. It's very, very toxic to our cells. So when these membranes become all inflamed, do you think these mitochondria make energy? They don't. They don't make any energy. We don't go anywhere. This essentially becomes a cabin with no windows and no doors and 3 wood stoves roaring. The cellular smoke that builds up in here makes the cell extremely toxic, and it doesn't work anymore. And that's what was happening, a part of the picture for this kiddo. When we look at autistic kiddos, when we look at Alzheimer's, when we look at dementia, when we look at long COVID, when we look at, anything, anxiety, depression, ADD, ADHD, any chronic disease aside from a few types of rare genetic cancers, it always starts here, every single time. And when we get sick in the conventional medical system, has anyone ever addressed this with you before? No, and they won't, and they're not going to. Do you know why? Because your symptoms make them a lot of money. Fixing your symptoms makes a lot of money. They are not equipped to deal with this problem. They do not know how to fix this problem, and they are not going to fix this problem because they know that addressing cellular health is the solution to solving the 98% of chronic disease that begins here. They know what's causing autism. They know what's causing autoimmune. They don't know how to fix it, and they're not going to. So here's my sassy challenge that I say with so much respect. If you want to see your children be well, and if you want to avoid chronic disease and die of old age, we have to start here. I don't care what kind of, I'm an herbalist, I love herbs. If you go take a detox program, 4 weeks, take a bunch of herbs, you're gonna make yourself sick because you're not doing anything to support your cells. You're gonna grab onto heavy metals that are floating around in your body and move them around. They're not gonna leave, you're not gonna solve any problems, and I love plants, I promise you, more than anybody in this room. I own an apothecary with hundreds of them, okay? It's not enough. We have to come here if we want to detox, if we want to thrive, if we want to stop the autism epidemic. It is here. So I'm going to prove it again in case you don't believe me. So let's come back to a healthy cell because that one was sad. Okay, this cell has lots of healthy mitochondria, lots of energy, nice, healthy, juicy membrane. Lots of good things coming in, lots of all the, I don't say bad things, because our cells are supposed to make some toxins as they make energy. It's normal. But all that stuff is coming out. There is, how do I want to say this? There is this incredibly remarkable part of our cells called an integral membrane protein. And who here believes that the body has its own wisdom, its own intelligence? Does anybody believe that? I hear Ashley and Andrew say it this way: the power that made the body heals the body. Same idea, okay? We know that intuitively as humans, or spiritually as spiritual people, but science knows it exists in these, without a doubt. There is this incredible function inside these proteins that cleans up bad DNA. These proteins, when they are not clogged down with all of the stressors, they decide what genes we express. When you clean this up, you change your genetic code. It's called epigenetics. It's a real thing. And this is part of why this is a solution, not just for the diseases we face in our own bodies, but for generations. It's extremely powerful. And detox is the critical missing link, because guess what loves these proteins? Metal. Amalgam or mercury, mold, glyphosate. And nothing can get into the cell without these proteins working, and our body's own cleanup process completely fails. We are meant to heal. There's intelligence inside our body that heals itself. And that's why this is so powerful. That's why the testimonies that come out of the type of work I'm doing are unbelievable. I can't fix an autistic kid's brain the way that they're being healed, but his own body can. If we get enough of this stuff out of the way, our cells clean up themselves. And someone mentioned fasting earlier. Fasting expedites this process. So if you're healthy enough to water fast, that's an extremely powerful tool. But we have to look here. It's the missing link, because when we clean these up, get all the heavy metals off, get the heavy metals out of our brain, it starts to heal and it works really well. We have to be willing to look to the root cause of our sicknesses and disease, whether that's emotional, physical, or chemical. If we can't look into ourselves and take responsibility for our lives and make those choices about cleaning up our household products and our makeup and our lifestyle, and looking at hard information about things like pharmaceuticals and the way we build our houses and whatever it is, we all have our own thing that's hard. If we can't face those, we're not going to fix this. And it doesn't have to be perfect. And I'm going to show you an illustration that proves that too. But first, I want to give you guys some numbers, okay? I'm going to write down a number that took me a minute to figure out what it was today. if you haven't had children yet, or you're planning to have children, and you clean up your cells now, this is how many people, assuming families of 4, 1,480,576 humans whose DNA you change forever. That is insane. Okay, so let's half that. Let's say families of 2. I don't know what half of that is, but it's a heck of a lot of lives that you change forever. This is not menial stuff. We're not talking about a master cleanse with lemon juice and cayenne to lose 15 pounds and feel better. We're talking about going back to the genetic code that God wanted us to have from the very beginning. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes time, and it has to be a part of our life. And we have to be willing to look at hard things. But our kids right now, from the time they are in their womb, they are being exposed to toxins, not only the bioaccumulation, that means everything that's collected from the 4 generations before them, but what is happening in our world is unprecedented. We can't walk outside without being bombarded with toxins, and none of us can change that. And it can be really, really overwhelming. But when we make cellular healing a part of our life, when we focus on healing our cells, then we can live and thrive in this world. And it's challenging. It's not an easy fix, but it's not rocket science. If I can do it, anybody in this room can do it. So I want to go back again to this story about this family. So one thing I didn't mention about the mother in the story is every person in her family had an autoimmune disease except her. And when she started learning about helping her baby, she used the information about cellular healing for herself. And she didn't do any of the detox, no heavy metals, none of that stuff. And she did, I skipped a part, between the birth of her baby and working with this information, she developed Hashimoto's, which is an autoimmune disease that attacks your thyroid. 1 in 3 women have it, and most women that have it don't know they have it. It's very serious. And within 4 months of focusing on healing her cells, she completely reversed her Hashimoto's without even doing detox. When we look at this system, it is so effective and it is so powerful. And all the other people that practice detox without doing this can hate me for saying this, but it doesn't work and it's not safe. So I think part of my responsibility to you guys tonight is to let you know if you're interested in detox, and if you want to do that, find a program that does this well. Because if you don't, you're wasting your money, your time, and it's not going to be effective. So this information about how to heal the cells and bring energy up in the cells and make more mitochondria, all this type of stuff that I won't bore you with, is how she did that. And it took time, not a lot of time, but it took time. And I'm going to tell you, as a clinician working with sick kids, if that mom had made different choices for her child, his story would have went really differently. And this is a really powerful story for a lot of reasons. And it's mine. And I know as a mother and as a clinician that if I hadn't had the chiropractic care, and if I hadn't been able to take off the emotional burden, and if I hadn't been able to heal my son's cells, that I might be very well sitting in front of a very autistic, very challenged child. But he's healing. Dr. Andrew can testify to my son's healing. It's beautiful, and I think I underestimate it all the time because I watched the tiny slow bloom of him kind of come back to his body. And I've seen it happen in other kids too, but I just felt to share my family's story with you. My other child has a completely different type of chronic disease called Lyme's disease. And this is also the solution we're using to help him. This is something that I believe in so much. Not only do I offer it to all my clients and patients that can do it, but it's what I turn to for my own family. Now, there are some problems and objections with detox. One is that it's expensive. Doing it safely is expensive because products have to be pure. But you know what's more expensive? Being sick. Missing out on your 1-year-old because you're so sick, pregnant, you can't get out of bed. Not being able to work for months and months and months because you can't walk, because you can't eat, because you can't function. Having an autoimmune disease, not remembering who your spouse or who your children are. Invest in your health by focusing on yourselves. In your diet, in your lifestyle, by taking chemicals out of your house, buy the non-toxic laundry soap. It's $10 more, $5 more. It's worth it. Die of old age, not of cellular disease. The other problem with detox is it takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. Some people feel better right away. Some people it takes years. But time is your most precious commodity, and you can spend it cleaning up your mess that you wouldn't look at today, or you can spend it taking charge of your health and learning how to take care of yourselves now. Incorporating detox into your lifestyle on a regular basis is the only way this is going to work. You can't do it once. You have to master these tools and live it in your life and teach it to your family. The other problem with detox is that you won't feel good. You'll feel really terrible the whole time you're detoxing the rest of forever. I'm just kidding, that's a lie. But people believe that. They think, okay, I'm going to have to stop everything I'm doing and do this really, really strict diet, and I'm going to feel really terrible and I'm not going to be able to function. It's not true. I'm detoxing today. I detox all of the time, and you guys wouldn't believe what I do. I'm a single parent. I'm a home birth midwife. I run an integrative health practice. I work with autistic kiddos. I have 2 crazy boys that I take traveling and camping and hiking and fishing. And I detox when I want to, and I rest when I need to. Detox should not interfere with your life so much that you can't function. If you feel that bad detoxing, if you feel that bad after a sauna, if you feel that bad after a cold plunge, after exercise, after taking herbs, then what you're actually doing is redistributing toxins inappropriately through your body. If you are detoxing well, and if you are dosing your chelators and your binders and those other things we talked about properly, you won't feel bad. You shouldn't feel bad. So I'll kind of show you, I think, how are we on time? How many minutes do I have? 5 minutes? Do I have 5 more minutes?
I think you know.
Okay. So I'm going to show you what safe detox should look like, and then we're going to open up to questions. Does that sound good? So if we come back to our cells, I'm going to just keep it simple. You've probably heard about detox pathways. If you haven't, that's also really, really important. The first step of any safe detox program should be that all the detox pathways are open. That includes pooping, sweating, your liver, your lymph, your kidneys, all those things need to be working. And then what we need to do is, someone mentioned chelators. If you don't know what chelators is, zeolites is one of them. There's lots of different types. We want them to be sitting out here. They're kind of like the first line of defense. And then what we do is we tell the cell, remember all the little nasty toxins hanging out here. Then when this is set up, we tell the cell, okay, you can let go of it now. After we've healed the cell, right? First we address cellular health. We get this safety net in place, and then we ask the cell to let it go. So when the cell lets it go, it grabs, all these little chelators have to grab on. Now, the first pitfall with this process is most people aren't using chelators that are strong enough to hold on the entire way through the body. So what happens is we get this far, like cilantro is a really good example, and then it kind of comes down here and then it lets go. And then guess what happens? It redistributes somewhere else, probably an organ or a brain, because toxins love our brain. So we have to use real ones and we have to use pure ones, because anything that binds to heavy metals in our body also binds to heavy metals everywhere else. So it's really important that you use ones that aren't already bound up with something that you're then putting in your body. Does that make sense? Everybody tracking there? The next line of defense when we get these things out is in our gut, we use a binder. Someone mentioned like bentonite clay, which is kind of a binder. It's not amazing, but it can work with some things. So that has to sit kind of deep in our gut and our digestive system. Now, most of us have leaky gut. I'm sorry to tell you, it's a part of living in a world with glyphosate. So that's not a terribly difficult thing to address at home. But we have to use binders that can't cross. If you don't know what leaky gut is, I'll circle back. Some of us have these little gaps in the mucosa that lines our stomach and our intestines, and food particles can sometimes sneak through there. And that's part of what causes a lot of autoimmunity, is chemicals in food sneaking through the gut and getting into the bloodstream. Our gut is actually technically outside of our body. It's never meant to mix with the inside of our body. And because of glyphosate, which is what they spray on non-organic produce, that lining is broken. And so toxins can cross it, food can cross it. If you have any food sensitivities, that's what happened. Okay? So that is broken, and healing that is not terribly difficult. It's really important. Doesn't take a long time. Be super encouraged. Anybody can do it. So we put this here so that nothing can cross back over. Does that make sense? And then all these little guys that are bound up get pushed through the liver down in here and then eventually pooped out. That is how safe and real detox works. If one of those steps is missing, or if one of those steps is using an adulterated product or a product that isn't strong enough, the process doesn't work. And this process being done in our body and in our brains over time, intermittently over time, is what brings that really long-lasting healing for people that have very mysterious and troublesome illnesses. This is where a lot of those really miraculous stories with detox you hear really come from. But it needs to be done this way to be safe. And that's my opinion. Also the opinion of lots of other people, and people will argue about it. So the body was made to detox. It's a normal, natural process, but we were never meant to have in our bodies what we have in our bodies today. It was never meant to be in our bodies. And some things were never meant to cross from our gut to the inside of our bodies. Everybody still tracking with that? It was kind of spinny. Cool. Okay. So that's why we need help. If we only had one or two tiny little stressors or toxic exposures, this wouldn't be such a big problem. But because of our food and our products and our skincare and our clothing, if you wore a winter coat this year, it's sprayed in toxic, poisonous stuff. We just can't get around it, which is why this has become such an important part for most people. And I feel like I'm kind of beating a dead horse, so I'm going to let that go. And I have one more thing that I want to say, and then we can go to questions. But can Edith and what's your name? Ed, can you guys please stand up? Statistically, Edith and Ed will take this information and do something about it, and the rest of you will not. My challenge and request for you today is, however you feel called to address your cells and heal them, do it. Because if only Edith and Ed take action, we're still going to have a lot of sick kids. And it's your choice what you do with your own body, but it's your responsibility to look out for the next generation. So that is my exhortation and request. You guys can sit down. Thank you for hearing me. That's what I have to share. And I'm going to show an Allego scan which is really cool because it looks inside your cells at what's going on in there. So I'm excited to see, hopefully whoever wins is open to letting that be demonstrated. But does anybody have any questions?